Hello everyone, this is a demonstration of the new Android interface for the Periolase MVP7. Starting here on the home screen, you'll notice at the bottom there are 4 icons that show the 4 screens that are possible on the interface, starting with Procedures, Home, where we are now, Patients, and Admin. You can access those 4 screens by either pressing the buttons at the bottom, or with a swipe gesture, left to right, or right to left. Starting with the leftmost screen, the Procedures screen, pretty self-explanatory here. It shows you the different procedures that are preset and loaded into the system, starting off with LANAP first pass and LANAP second pass. There is a spot at the top to indicate the fiber that you are using, which would of course affect not only the options that are possible with that fiber, but also the therapeutic parameters that would be set to accomplish that procedure. Let's press LANAP first pass here, and with that the 3 therapeutic parameters, microseconds, millijoules, and hertz, are set there and ready to go. You'll notice that the top middle says LANAP first pass, or whatever preset you have just selected. To fire the laser, you would press standby, which then changes over to ready, and the foot pedal is ready to be depressed. Many of the items here on the home screen are designed to adjust those 3 therapeutic parameters. You can do it manually here with the intuitive minus and plus signs, or by using a couple of other options. For example, this energy button here pulls up the 3 different columns and shows you the ways in which you can adjust those therapeutic parameters to achieve a desired average power. In this case right now it's at 2.6 watts. If I were to change some of these parameters, and these can scroll down, you can see the average power adjusts accordingly to show me what it's set at right now. Let's say I wanted to keep that 2 watts. There is a little thumbtack symbol right next to the average power. If I press that, it will lock in that 2 watts of average power and only show me the green unlocked parameters that would still achieve that 2 watts of power. Just another tool to allow me to control, specifically in this way, the average power. You'll notice that the locks sometimes will adjust and turn red or green as I click around. If I wanted specifically, let's say 100 Hertz, and it's currently locked, I can still press it, but the other 2 columns might adjust to allow for that. Cancel there. This next one over is a slightly different way of adjusting those same 3 therapeutic parameters. Let's say I want to adjust my watts all the way up to 4. It will show me the available microseconds over here, and then the available ordered pair here of the millijoules and hertz. In this case there's only one that works with all 3. If I were to go down to a lower millisecond, over here there might be several to choose from. If I like the settings that I have here, the average power of 4 watts, I can press set, and the 3 therapeutic parameters will set to what I have just selected. In the middle of the screen are the 4 quadrants. You don't have to use those to fire the Periolase. However, it is one way to be more specific with the Periolase, and therefore the patient chart as well, is as to where you're putting the energy. Let's say I select the upper right arch. If I were to fire the Periolase now, the information recorded would be specific to that upper right arch. I can get even more granular by pressing and holding, and it will show me the individual teeth in that quadrant. I can then choose one tooth or multiple teeth for a group of teeth. Again, if I were to now X out of that and fire the Perioles, it would remember that I am putting the energy into those teeth. If I long press on one tooth, it will give me a few more options to be more specific. Maybe that tooth is extracted or has an implant. I could essentially create the entire mouth of that particular patient that would then translate again to the information recorded. Over on this side are a few other options as well. Right now it just would count up the joules and shots once the Perioles is fired. If I go to this menu, I'll see a few options. One is timer. This might be good for biostimulation, for example. I can set the timer to say 3 minutes, say OK. I'll show the 3 minutes there. If I were to press the foot pedal, that 3 minutes would start counting down, and the Perioles would shut off once the timer has expired. Next option says Info Average Power. This shows me a little more detail as to the average power, the peak power, etc. This would be especially helpful if one is changing fiber diameters to, say, the 400 fiber. This does all the math for you, essentially, in figuring out that energy density that we would previously pass out as a laminated chart. It's now incorporated into the user interface here and shows you that information. The last selection here says Info Measure Power, and this is one of the ways to do a power measurement check by firing the Perioles fiber into the power meter. If I were to do that, you would see right here where it's red what the power meter is recording and how close it is to the desired wattage. Finally, on the left side of the home screen, it says Light Dose Chart. This allows the clinician to set a desired light dose. Say OK. The graph comes up here on the left, and as the Perioles is fired, it will graph the energy in joules against that desired light dose and stop when it reaches the desired light dose. Now, I showed you some presets on screen 1, but there's another way for the clinician to set his or her own presets, and that's at the bottom here where it says Presets. If you pull that up, there are 10 slots to set something that is specific to that clinician. So if I X out of that, and let's say I have a particular therapeutic window where I like and I want to save that for future use, I would just press and hold the next available slot, and it allows me to store it just with those presets numbers, or I can even name that. I might name this biostimulation, for example, so that it's easy for me to get back to those settings. Biostimulation is not one of the pre-programmed presets because it is not an FDA-cleared procedure. This is very similar to setting your favorite radio stations in your car. At the top here, it says Patient Name. This allows me to select a particular patient that I'm working on for that day. A little further information into the patients is found on the Patient tab. Here you would see the entire list of patients that you have. Notice some of them are green checkmarked, which can be taken out very easily and put back in. This is intended for the clinician or someone else in the office to green checkmark only the patients that will be seen that day, so that on the home screen only the green checkmarked patients will show up here, making it a little easier to select just from those few that apply to that business day. Again, every time the Perioles foot pedal is depressed, the information about the joules and the therapeutic parameters are being recorded, and in this case it would be assigned to that particular patient. The last component of the home screen is the fiber diameter. Self-explanatory here to choose between the different fiber diameters to tell the Perioles what you are using. At the bottom here, the bottom right, are two icons that can be seen on every screen. The first is a print icon. If I press the little printer, what that does is take a screenshot of whatever was on the screen when I did that. I can then adjust that screenshot to fill up the page and print it via Bluetooth to my office printer. Over on the patient screen, I showed you this list of patients, pretty self-explanatory. If it's a long list, I could press the different letters on the left to help me navigate. I could search via this field here. And then the reporting tab, this is where everything is recorded every time the foot pedal is depressed, whether it's to a particular patient or an undefined, non-specific patient. This is showing me everything about that particular time that the foot pedal was pressed, and it allows me to zoom in on my reporting either by date, or I could filter it by patient or specifically by site within the mouth. When I'm happy with a report and I want to print it, again, the printer icon down here will do that. This time, instead of a screenshot, it will take the entire report that I have created, and I can again print it via Bluetooth to the office printer. There's also a little question mark symbol. This is the help icon, and this will pull up the owner's manual to the Android interface in case any of those menus or settings aren't quite fully understood or remembered. This is where the help screen is stored. Finally, the admin screen. Two sections here, the power measure and control panel. First, with the measure power, I mentioned that the other spot back on the home screen under info measure power is one way that you can see the power meter. On the admin screen is the other, and this is where you would do that. Shows you the therapeutic parameters. You would say ready and then fire, and the meter window would activate and show you how close you are to the desired wattage that you are expecting. In the control panel are a few other settings that one can adjust. Everything from the aiming beam intensity, time zone, the date and time. This next box, energy parameter info display by default, it just means that back on the home screen this info average power would come up by default every time. So you're able to have that on or off. Dental Arch sextant mode for our friends in Canada. If you select that, back on the home screen, instead of quadrants, you'll see the sextants, which is how they and perhaps other places in the world record their patient charting. There's an option to clear jewels on tooth selection. If I were to select a particular tooth, it would clear them out. The screen brightness up and down, or just restore default therapeutic parameters. Again, the help screen is there. Let's go back to patients. We've been over the report tab and also the patients tab. And back to the home screen. Take that away. Showed you the presets. I can always clear out if I have been using the Perioles. I can clear that information. And that's about it. I think we've covered it all. This has been under quite a bit of beta testing, so hopefully it is user-friendly and intuitive and self-explanatory. I invite you at your next opportunity to play around with it yourself. I think you'll find it easy to use and a vast improvement over the previous interface. Thank you very much for your attention.